Hi, hello. Today we're going to be talking about the Steel Tera type 7-star Blastoise that will debut later this week. And in preparation of that Blastoise, I have created five technically four new Pokemon and then two Pokemon that we're recycling. So six Pokemon total that you can use for the 7-star Blastoise, assuming I am right on what I think this Blastoise is going to do. Okay, before we get to the 6 builds, we'll have to go over Blastoise and why I'm picking the Pokemon I am picking. Blastoise is a water-type Pokemon. It will be Steel-type Tera, meaning it will be weak to fighting, ground, and fire. It will also have the ability Rain Dish, which is not that big of a deal. It just means when rain is up, it will recover some of its HP each turn. And while I do suspect Blastoise to have Rain Dance and use it at some point during the raid, we are going to counter that with Sun. Because it still gets its stab on its water type moves, we want to reduce that damage by setting up Sun, and that will make our moves stronger because we are going to be using some fire type moves. Stat-wise, Blastoise's defenses are higher than its attacks, so even if it has some way, it does have a way to boost its attack stat or its special attack stat, it still isn't hitting hard as previous starters that we've experienced. But it is a little bit on the bulkier side, and it has ways to bulk up even more. And it has a pretty diverse move pool, especially compared to the 7-star Venusaur that we just ended up fighting. And so I think the thing that I believe that Blastoise will do is because Venusaur increased its special defense frequently, and we had to switch over to physical attackers to just ignore the special defense. I actually think Blastoise is going to do that with its physical defense. It has the ability to Iron Defense, and if you tried to bring a special attacker to Venusaur, you'll notice that it had a +6 special defense, and I think Blastoise is actually going to go +6 physical defense, and that would make a lot of Pokemon relying on moves like Drain Punch to not do as well as they should if that defense stat ends up getting maxed. Also, because Blastoise is a Steel-type Tera, moves like Acid Spray will not work, or a move like Clear Smog would also not work, which were, at least Clear Smog was very useful for the Venusaur raid. We can still use a move like Haze to clear stats, and we do have some Pokemon that are able to Haze. So when I calculate moves and I calculate survivability of these Pokemon, I always just pick the strongest move. Do I expect Blastoise to have Hydro Pump and Focus Blast? No, realistically, I actually expect it to have like Surf and Aura Sphere instead. Actually, I don't know if it gets Aura Sphere, but anyways, a fighting move that is not as strong as Focus Blast. Like, I don't expect it to also have Blizzard, but if we can survive Blizzard, we can survive Ice Beam. So that's how I always run my calcs, is by just calculating the strongest move. Because if we can survive Hydro Pump, we can survive Surf. If we can survive Blizzard, we can survive Ice Beam. And the one move out of all of these that I definitely expect is Flash Cannon. It is the only special type, Steel type move that Blastoise knows, and because Blastoise will be the Steel type Tera, I do expect to see that Flash Cannon as well. So on the special side, we have a water move, we have Steel, Dark, Fighting, Ice, and Dragon. And if it doesn't have this Dragon move, that actually frees up a couple more Pokemon that would make them more viable here. On the physical side, it still has that water coverage. It has rock coverage, dark, ice, Earthquake, which is threatening to quite a few Pokemon. Zen Headbutt, which would be threatening to fighting Pokemon. And then another fighting type move. And then on status type moves, we have the Rain Dance, we have Haze, and we have Iron Defense. The other move I want to mention here is Shell Smash. I didn't write it down, but I do suspect the raid will open with Shell Smash. Shell Smash, if you don't know, will lower the user's defense and special defense by 1 stage, which is actually really good for us, but it will raise the attack, special attack, and speed by 2 stages. Now, we actually saw this with Venusaur. We saw Venusaur set Sunny Day and then use Growth, which increased its physical attack by 2 and its special attack by 2. This is why I think the Blastoise raid is going to be very similar, except on the defense side, not the special defense side. I think what will happen is Blastoise will open up with Shell Smash and then do a stat clear and clear its negative defense and its negative special defense. The last time we saw something like this was actually the original 7-star Charizard. Well, it would open up with Overheat, which would give it a -2 special attack, and then it would clear that stats right away before we got to go. Now, if this happens, there's no way for us to prevent that. We can't taunt because it's on turn 0. We would have to, on our turn 1, haze it in order to remove that, which is what we're prepared for. And because Venusaur only uses growth once, I actually think we only see Blastoise use Shell Smash once, which was on the first turn. And then Venusaur used Amnesia Amnesia. I'm pretty sure I'm saying that wrong. To boost its special defense, where I think Blastoise will use Iron Defense to boost its physical defense. Okay, now that we've got that out of the way, let's talk about Pokemon. Now, our first Pokemon against Blastoise is actually going to be Croconaw. Now, I know what you're thinking. I don't click off. I know you're like, what is this man possibly building? I promise you this is good. Just hear me out. Croconaw is the water type Pokemon with a water Tera type, although you probably will not have to Tera this ever. And then it will be holding Eviolite. Eviolite will boost the defense and special defense of a Pokemon not fully evolved by 50%. This will actually make Croconaw bulkier than Feraligatr. So Croconaw is a full support Pokemon. It's not here to do any damage. It's only here to help other Pokemon do damage. So you really don't need more than one on a team. But we'll have access to Chilling Water because we do suspect that Blastoise will be a mixed attacker. So this will control Blastoise's physical moveset. We'll also have access to Mud Slap. Mud Slap will lower Blastoise's accuracy to make your team harder to hit. And then it will also have Icy Wind. For the most part, almost all of our Pokemon outspeed Blastoise, but if it does Shell Smash and have that +2, we want to still be, some of our Pokemon still want to be faster, or if it doesn't ever Shell Smash, there's a few Pokemon where one Icy Wind will help that team be faster than it in general. So this move you're probably not going to use a lot, but the move that we will rely on is Fake Tears. Fake Tears will harshly lower Blastoise's special defense because, like I said, I do expect Blastoise to lay into its Iron Defense over and over. We will go the special route to ignore the physical route, and this will let us do more damage before the Tera shield goes up and then after the shield goes down. Otherwise, Croconaw will completely hold its own, especially if somebody puts up a Light Screen or somebody puts up a Reflect. Croconaw would also be in charge of Heal, Cheers, and keeping the team alive. But 1 to 2 Chilling Waters is probably good enough for most teams to get Blastoise to a -2. And then you can switch over to Mud Slap just to reduce its accuracy. But we do want the consistency of lowering that physical. If, for whatever reason, Blastoise has no physical moves or it's not using any physical moves against your team, we don't have to worry about Chilling Water. Just go all in on the Mud Slap and Fake Tears when you have an opportunity to do that. Croconaw will be the Calm Nature with 252 HP, 100 defense, and 156 in special defense, EV-wise. Our next Pokemon is going to be Milotic with the Water Tera type, and you probably actually won't Tera this either because this is another full support Pokemon. So Milotic will have the Marvel Scale ability. What that means is when Milotic has a status condition, it will actually boost its defense. And because we're giving Milotic the Flame Orb, that means that its defense will be boosted against Blastoise. Same thing with Croconaw or any of these other Pokemon. If we find out that Blastoise does not have any physical moves or it's not using it against these Pokemon, or your team, I should say, then we wouldn't need to run the Flame Orb. Instead, what I would opt to run is a Light Clay to make Light Screen last longer. But I did want to explain what Marvel Scale did and why the Flame Orb on Milotic is very beneficial. But Milotic is very similar to Croconaw, except it's not. It does have the same Chilling Water, and it has Skitter Smack. What Skitter Smack is going to do is lower Blastoise's special attack, and then Chilling Water is the physical attack. We have Light Screen to protect our entire team against special attacks because Blastoise, like I showed earlier, has a lot of special moves with good coverage. And then we have Life Dew to keep our team healthy. So I do think a Milotic and a Croconaw can sit next to each other because the Milotic can take care of the Light Screen, can take care of moves, can Life Dew, and then Croconaw can reduce the accuracy and also Fake Tears. So your other Pokemon that you're bringing just do major damage because of that Fake Tears. EV-wise, you're going to do 252 HP, 120 in defense, and 136 in special defense. And I would always open up with Light Screen. If Blastoise does Shell Smash and hits really hard on turn 1 and turn 2, I would Light Screen and then immediately switch to Life Dew to start healing. And then once everyone is healed up, Skitter Smack or Chilling Water, whichever move is appropriate depending on what your team needs based on what Blastoise is trying to do to you. Otherwise, Milotic should have complete control, and once the special attack and physical attack are down to about -2, then it should be smooth sailing for your entire team. Our next Pokemon is going to be Volcanion. We actually used Volcanion for an old 7-star raid. I'm trying to think of which one that was off the top of my head. I know not a lot of people have Volcanion, but undoubtedly it's super good here. It is Fire, Water, Terra, and cannot be hit by Water-type moves. Sorry, Fire, Water type, and can't be hit by Water-type moves because of its ability. We will go with the Stellar type if you don't have enough Stellar Shards. You can get them pretty easily by knocking out 5 Pokemon in the Indigo Disc in the Blueberry Academy, or you can get them from the item printer. But if for some reason you cannot get enough Stellar Shards or you don't have the DLC, but you have a Volcanion, you can just do Fire Terra type because you're not going to get hit by any Water type moves because of Volcanion's ability Water Absorb. Volcanion has one of the most important moves that most teams will probably need, which is Haze. If Volcanion is there, there's really no threat to Volcanion, especially with the EVs that I put on it. But Haze will remove the +2 from speed, the +2 from special attack, and the +2 from physical attack on turn 1, and just set up that raid for success. So if you are somebody who is using Chilling Water and Skitter Smack, wait until the Haze user uses Haze first. Otherwise, you're wasting your turn. You only have to wait 2 or 3 seconds. As soon as you see the Haze appear in your upper left-hand corner, then you can hit your move. Even though raids are real time and there is lag in it, the game does decide a turn order based on who is pressing what. So you're kind of wasting your turn by using Chilling Water before the Haze goes off. So if you were to Chilling Water and then Haze happens, everything gets put down to 0. If Haze goes first and then you Chilling Water, you're going to get that down to the -1. So it's very important just to pay attention to turn order here. Assuming that it only Shell Smashes once, you'll only have to Haze at the beginning. If it starts Iron Defensing, you won't have to worry about that if you have special attackers, because just let it Iron Defense. We're going to attack on the special side anyways. If you are playing with physical Pokemon, you are going to have to Haze to help those physical Pokemon. But if those physical Pokemon are then relying on Belly Drum, you're hazing away their Belly Drum. So that's more up to those Belly Drum users to understand when Haze is happening. And that's why I think it gets really complicated, and it's just hopefully going to be much simpler if we go down the special route. We do have Taunt, which should prevent a Rain Dance or future Shell Smashes, because again, we wouldn't be able to stop that first one if it's like Venusaur, or to Taunt to prevent Iron Defenses. And then very simple here. Ultimately, how you play Volcanion is you open up with a Haze, you then Sunny Day, and then you spam Flamethrower until you Terra, reapply Sun when needed. Shell Bell to get health back. Default item on a lot of these Pokemon is just Shell Bell just to get health back. You could maybe run a Heat Rock to make Sunny Day last longer, because Volcanion is probably one of the bulkiest / best typing for this raid. But it's possible that Blastoise sets Rain at 50%, because that's exactly when Venusaur sets Sun at 50%. Volcanion's EVs are a little more complicated. It's just going to be 252 HP, 40 defense, which is just 4 of the defense vitamins. 68 speed. And what the 68 speed does is it actually lets you outspeed Blastoise by 1 point. Now, of course, if it Shell Smashes, it'll be +2 in speed. But once you Haze it, you will then forever be faster than Blastoise, which is very helpful for setting Sun for your team or hitting the Flamethrower and getting your health back before Blastoise has a turn. So I think 68, which is a pretty small investment in speed, is worth it here, and then 148 in special attack, the remaining into special attack, which is 148. Before we get to our next Pokemon, I just want to make sure that you guys are subscribed. About 80% of everyone who watches my raid build videos are not subscribed. So if you enjoy my builds, if you play with friends and that these are super helpful, or you play in a group or a community and you enjoy my raid builds, it would mean the world to me if you could just double check to make sure you're subscribed, or, tell a friend, or make sure your friend's subscribed, or make sure your grandma's subscribed. That's also helpful too. Almost to 200,000 on YouTube. So I would appreciate subscribe, like, comment, all that, all that YouTube stuff. But anyways, let's get to the next Pokemon. Our next Pokemon is going to be Keldeo, and actually, this is the same exact Keldeo we used for a past 7-star raid. Same EVs, same moveset, same everything. It's going to be Aura Sphere, which will be super effective on the special side, so that works with that fake tears from the Crocodile. Calm Mind to boost your special defense and your special attack. Although I wouldn't worry about this until after your stats are cleared. It's usually better to get to Terra faster. I saw a lot of Chestnuts use Belly Drum on turn 1 against Venusaur, even though we knew for sure Venusaur was going to reset all stats on turn 3. So that didn't really make sense. You were better off just getting to Terra faster. Reflect. Again, we think that Blastoise will be a mixed attacker. So we have the Light Screen from Milotic. We have the Reflect coming from Keldeo. And then we have another Sunny Day user because we want to reduce that water damage coming from Blastoise. Pretty simple. Although Keldeo doesn't benefit from the Sunny Day, you could also put a couple other moves here. I believe Keldeo gets access to Taunt as well, just depending on your playing style here. But I think the first 3 moves are a given for Keldeo. And again, Keldeo is one of those Pokemon with really good typing for this raid. And then Keldeo's EVs are 252 HP, 216 in special attack, and 40 in special defense. I probably could change these to optimize them a little bit better, but when I ran the basic calcs, Keldeo seemed great here, so I didn't feel like I really needed to change it just to push off like 1 or 2 percentages. So same as last time for Keldeo. Still does great here. I know not a lot of people have Keldeo and Volcanion, but they are really good here, and I know people like to use their mythicals when they get a chance. So a really, really easy Pokemon to get, and actually a Pokemon I don't think I've ever built for a raid is Vaporeon. Vaporeon's really great. It has the same ability as Volcanion, which is Water Absorb, meaning when we change to Fire-type Terra and Blastoise decides to use a Water-type move, we will not take any damage. There is a small risk with Vaporeon if Blastoise has Rock Slide or Earthquake, but that's okay because our Vaporeon will have Chilling Water, and Chilling Water will reduce those physical attacks. So we will want to use Chilling Water 100% if Blastoise has those 2 moves. And we only have to worry about those moves when we Terrasilize, because that's when we were weak to it. So we have Weather Ball here. Weather Ball will be a 100 base power fire type move in the Sun, and we do have Sun, and we have other Pokemon that can set Sun to support us. We have Chilling Water, and then we have Fake Tears. So the same thing here. Before the shield goes up, we can Fake Tears once or twice. And once the shield is completely broken, we can Fake Tears again to accelerate the raid. And again, Fake Tears is like Nasty Plot for our whole team because all of our Pokemon are special attackers. That means a lot of damage for all of our Pokemon because we are all special attackers here. If you are just building Terra or if it's just the beginning of the match, just use Chilling Water because you don't need to do major damage right away. Like, if the raid shield goes up, your damage is already significantly reduced until you Terrasilize. So there's not a lot of point of wasting your Weather Balls on that. Just use Chilling Water because you're just going to build Terra. It still benefits the team. And then once you're able to Terrasilize, you can then do that Fire-type damage with Weather Ball. And again, if for some reason Blastoise is a +2 in attack and has access to the move Earthquake, do not Terrasilize until you Chilling Water it, or until somebody hazes it, or until you get rid of that +2 physical attack. Because a Fire Vaporeon is not going to take that as well as a Water Vaporeon. But really good moveset here. You could also change out Fake Tears for something like Calm Mind, which you could use when the Raid Shield is up. You cannot use Fake Tears when the Raid Shield is up. You can't use any status type moves. But I do think that even though the Raid Shield part might be a slog, Fake Tears will definitely accelerate the end of that raid very quickly. EVs for Vaporeon is 252 HP, 40 defense, and 216 in special attack. And then finally, because I know people are going to ask, here is Iron Hands. Here he is. He is not a special attacker. But I want to mention Iron Hands in particular because, one, I could be wrong about Blastoise spamming Iron Defense. And two, even though Blastoise may use Iron Defense, my specific Iron Hands build, which I made a whole video about, which you can check out here, I run a bunch of numbers and show you why Scope Lens is one of the best, if not the best item for Iron Hands, and why you should build this specific Iron Hands. And if you have an Iron Hands, you should change it to this one because it's perfect for a situation like Blastoise. Let me explain. So we have Drain Punch, we have Belly Drum. You can also switch this out to Sword Stance if you don't feel comfortable losing half your HP, or if we know Blastoise is going to do a little bit too much damage and you don't have a Reflect or a Light Screen user to help you out. And then we have Focus Energy, and this is the important move here. And then finally, we have Electric Terrain. Now, Electric Terrain would boost Iron Hands' damage even more, especially if there's 2 Iron Hands on the field. Using this move once will boost both of those Iron Hands and increase their damage output. But Focus Energy is the real bread and butter here. With the combination of Focus Energy and holding the item Scope Lens, every single Drain Punch you will do will critical hit. And when you critical hit, you do more damage. And because you're doing more damage, you get more health back. So because this is the move we would want to hit, because it's super effective against Steel, there's no reason to run something like a Shell Bell or a Big Root, because Big Root is better than Shell Bell on Drain Punch. My video explains why and shows the numbers why. When we critical hit with Drain Punch, or when we critical hit with any move, we ignore the defense changes on that Pokemon. So even if Blastoise is a +6, we ignore that because we are critical hitting. So if people are adamant to bring physical attackers to a raid that may have a +6 of physical defense, we can ignore that by just critical hitting. If we were to Belly Drum and hold a Shell Bell, we would just be at 0. When they would be +6, we would be +6. It would just cancel out. And that's not a lot of damage. Whereas if we can crit through that, even if we were not to Belly Drum and it's at +6, we would still be doing more damage than somebody who did Belly Drum that is not critting. And again, I have a whole video going in depth with Iron Hands, and I show a bunch of numbers. I'm sure that'll pop up on screen. You should check out that video. I did want to mention that Iron Hands actually works really well here, regardless of if it iron defenses or not. And I hate to say that because it just does. And this Iron Hands survives the Earthquake really well. And honestly, Iron Hands works with this team. It does. If it's standing next to the Milotic and the Milotic is using Skitter Smack and Chilling Water and setting up a light screen, if Volcanion is there to set Sun and a Haze, Iron Hands works really well with these 5 Pokemon I've just talked about. I could go more in depth with Iron Hands, but I made a whole video and I really would appreciate if you check that out. So that's all 6 Pokemon. Thanks for watching. Feel free to check out that Iron Hands video. If I'm wrong about Blastoise, I'm sorry. I have had a pretty good track record of getting all these 7-star raids correct. Not perfect, but again, my whole premise, if you made it to the end, I like to build Pokemon that work well together so groups can play, or, you know, you can play with your grandma because she appreciates when she has a raid partner. So thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time.